never rests.
Careless in the sky. What a thrilling time to be alive.
What is up, everybody? Sunday night Georgia show. I'm Jake Rowe. He's Rusty Mansell, and we are from DawgsHQ. We got a full show. We're going to talk a little bit about college football, what we saw this weekend with a second bye, chance to kind of look around the league, look around the country, see where Georgia fits in, where does Georgia stack up. Talk a little Georgia, Florida, maybe a few memories mixed in there, things of that nature. Man, there's just a lot to get into as far as this game. Betting line is out on this game. Kind of got an early look at that. I'm not even sure if Rusty has seen that yet.
I have not.
Before we get to that, Whataburger touchdown tour. Listen, start your morning with the breakfast you deserve at Whataburger. We have plenty of options to choose from. You could get a sweet, crispy honey butter chicken biscuit. That sounds right up my alley. Or a breakfast bowl. Also sounds right up my alley. I'm not picky. With savory sausage or bacon, or maybe even a big, tasty breakfast burger with extra bacon and avocado, whatever you want, just like you like it, Whataburger serves breakfast from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. So if you're going after hours, you want to pick up a little breakfast food from Whataburger, you got to do it. And listen, their locations in Athens, they're starting to spread all around Georgia. I saw there's one in Eatonton now, Rusty. They have got Whataburger locations all over the place, and you need to go to Whataburger, look up Touchdown Tour, and find out where they're going to be this week. It could be near you. You go out to the Whataburger food truck, have you a good time, get you some good grub, and check out Whataburger. We appreciate them partnering with us and supporting the Georgia show. So you go support them. We would very much appreciate that. Rusty, I don't know what you did this weekend. I did a little trip over to Washington Farms, but my wonderful wife was okay with me taking the extra phone battery and watching some games while everything went on. And I watched a lot of football this weekend. You know, I mean, it's I got a questionnaire from the Heisman folks the other day about how much football I watched. So I took it real serious this weekend. Maybe went a little bit overboard. But I just wanted to say, how much did you watch and you know, what did you think?
I chaperoned Kirby Smart on Saturday night at the Georgia High School Football Hall of Fame, and he was an inductee, and each player of the 30 players you get, I'm on the committee, and you get to be a host for they assign you one, and I guess they got some humor. They assigned me Kirby Smart, and you saw the tweet. I guess somebody tweeted it out. He was watching the Alabama game on his son's phone. He was watching the ending, and I can testify that backstage in the staging area, he definitely was watching college football. But he was there to be inducted into the Georgia High School Football Hall of Fame. Cam Newton, Keith Brook, and Robert Edwards. I mean, it was a who's who last night in Atlanta. So it was a great event, and it's a good moment for him. I did tell him that Lane Kiffin told me that his jacket, there's no way that Kirby's jacket was going to fit, and it did fit. So Lane, it did button up, but so it was a good night, man. And I watched a little bit during the day. Me and BA, Brandon Adams from Dog Nation, we're both on the committee. And, you know, at about 5:30 until about 9 o'clock last night, we're working. We got to go. And we were each checking our phones. I was like, man, all hell has broke loose in college football. And we're sitting here making sure of this. So it was an interesting night. I went back and watched as much as I could today, and watched, SEC Nation, SEC afterwards with Doring and Ben Watson, and try to watch as much replay. It was wild, Jake, how much was going on at one time, especially, around 6 o'clock yesterday, between 5:30 and 6:30. It was absolutely wild.
Man, it was insane. Kind of, honestly, what you thought might happen was crazier than what actually happened. Texas does end up coming back and beating Mississippi State. Man, Jeff Lebby and those guys just refused to win an SEC game. They just let another one slip through their fingers there. And it's not like they let one slip through their fingers against just some has-been, also-ran type team. I mean, Texas is really talented. Alabama gets a big break, create their own big break by snatching the football out there against Lenore Sellers. And Ole Miss picks up a massive win on the road in a sloppy game. against Oklahoma. Rusty, I was watching that game in the first half, and I was like, man, Oklahoma is catching a big break here because Ole Miss is on one. They were playing just as well or better than they were against Georgia offensively, but they were bad snapping and slipping and sliding and everything else, and they couldn't make the plays to stay on the field like the ones they were making at Georgia. And there was a 3rd and 3 or a 3rd and 4. Ole Miss was getting a chance to kind of go up two or like a full 2 scores or maybe 3 scores there in the first half, and they get a bad snap and slip and fall down trying to recover it, and don't get anything out of it. So it's Ole Miss is for real. I think
Ole Miss is in. I'm gonna tell you right now. This ain't an Ole Miss podcast, so I'm not trying to hijack it.
Yeah.
Ole Miss is in. Ole Miss has got South Carolina at home, Citadel at home, Florida at home, at Mississippi State.
Rusty, I would have said that last year whenever they beat Georgia.
but they don't play Alabama, Texas A&M. They don't play any of those schools this year.
Well, they played Florida after they played Georgia and lost.
It's a different Florida. I'm telling you, they're in. They can still lose another game and they're in. They might be they're Ole Miss is in.
I push back against that a little bit because that LSU win doesn't look very good right now.
Correct.
And now your best win, now your best 2 performances are an 8-point loss to Georgia and an 8-point win over at Oklahoma. Where does Oklahoma go from here? They've still got to play Tennessee. Ole Miss.
Oklahoma's got at Tennessee, at Alabama. Oh, by the way, and Missouri and LSU, which no telling what's going to be going on at LSU. So you start looking at schedules.
I'm with you, to an extent. I'm with you that Ole Miss is a good enough team to be in the college football playoff, and I think they're a good enough team to get in there and make some noise, right? But I do wonder if they slip up and lose a game and get what's left on their schedule. There's not a good loss left out there. So they get
pretty good at home, man. I would be surprised. Now Mississippi State could get them at Mississippi State. That's always crazy. They got a bye week now. They got a bye week going into that game. Be interesting on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a decent loss left on their schedule. So if they did slip up again, you're looking at a situation where if things break the right way for Oklahoma or the wrong way for Oklahoma, they might not have a top 25 win. As far as that goes, because then they've got 2 of their wins are going to cannibalize each other there. So that one's going to be interesting. I watched a little bit of the Vanderbilt game, and we might as well bring up Jared Curtis a little bit here. I can't imagine that was a thrilling game to watch, 17-10, and they set the game back several years with most of the plays in that game were just it was a slog. But Jared Curtis was there to watch it, and we'll have more for you over at DawgsHQ as far as that's coming, whatever you're willing to say right now.
I mean, I said it Saturday morning, and credit Hayes Fawcett. He had an interview directly with Jared Curtis, and he actually, I had to do change of plans. So I was actually going up last week. I'd actually planned to go to Nashville tomorrow. Had to change some things up. So I'm going to see him in a couple of weeks, but kind of made what we think on DawgsHQ with him, and again, there's very pro UGA people in his corner, and it's like this. I said this on the board, and I'll say it on the podcast. This was not its coach from Georgia. This was not a coach from Vanderbilt, but a coach texted me late Friday night and said, the quote was, "Georgia can't lose him. He's the best player in the country." And I responded. I said, "Georgia has felt that way a long time, and there's it's not like Georgia's turned off the heat on him. I mean, Georgia felt like this was their guy way early on. They feel like he's the number 1 player in the country. Other people feel like he's the number 1 player in the country. He's certainly not doing anything to hurt that thought around him at any position now, top overall player. So listen, Vanderbilt's got a lot of momentum. They're right in his backyard. When I tell you they are right in his backyard, they are right in his backyard. To me, I've made that drive a couple times from our office over to see him. It's about like going from, I would say, University of Georgia to probably, I would say, Oconee County High School. It's, 10, 12 minutes, give or take a little bit of traffic, nothing crazy. But certainly they're going to try, and we'll keep you updated on that. But, He is a priority for Georgia. Mike Bobo, he's made it clear. His mother has made it clear. I saw her make a post on social media and says, I can't wait for my son to play for Mike Bobo. And that was the words. I can't wait for my son to play for Mike Bobo. So take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, Bobo's certainly not hurting his cause the way Gunner's getting better and better. And that brings me kind of to my next thing is after a weekend of watching college football, you had a little more going on than I did as far as watching it goes. Where does Georgia stack up? And I just want to say this. There's not a team out there without warts, without problems, without a we got to figure it out type element to their team. Even Ohio State. I watched Ohio State earlier this year against Washington, and there were a couple of calls. I'm not saying they were bad calls, just a couple of calls went their way that kind of changed that game and allowed them to jump on top of it. Rusty, I came away from watching a full slate of college football this weekend thinking Georgia can certainly lose to a lot of different teams. Georgia can beat anybody too. And I feel like coming out of this weekend, I didn't know. I haven't, I don't, if anybody can pull a clip of me saying this, I'd love for them to do it because I don't remember saying it. Georgia's a national championship contender, and I've had some doubts as to whether or not I believe that to be the case or not. But, coming off of that Ole Miss game and the way Gunner played in that game, the way Georgia's getting better offensively, the trust I have in the defensive staff to figure something out at some point, I think Georgia's right in the thick of this thing, and there's a reason that Georgia's right there in that top 3 or 4 discussion as far as playoff odds or national championship odds.
I've said it from August on. The 2 most important things now are to be healthy in December and playing your best football in December. It's just hard to program yourself as a college football fan and a lifelong college football fan to sit here and say that Georgia can lose to Florida this weekend and everything's still in front of them. You know what I mean? Like, Georgia could be sitting here and be 6-2 and everything's still in front of them. If they went out, they're going to make the playoffs and then they'll have an opportunity to win a national championship. And that's certainly not the goal. And that's certainly not what you want to do, but it's just a different world, man. You got to be healthy in December and you got to get hot. And that's what Ohio State did. And, they suffered the worst loss. It would be just like Georgia losing to Georgia Tech this year and not playing well at all in Mercedes-Benz and then turning around and ripping off 4 in a row in the playoffs to win it. And that's what they did. So it's hard, man. It's hard to program your mind. You got to handle your business and you got to get to December now and you got to be healthy. And, speaking of healthy, from DawgsHQ last week for our subscribers, I posted something that Kirby changed up on a bye week. And I think that I'm with it, man. I'm with what he did. So if you're a subscriber over there, I love your feedback on that. But I really think that Kirby's playing a long game, and I really think he's trying to make sure that his team is ready to go in December with some of the things they've done over the last 2 weeks. And it's very interesting, a little different, I would say, attacking a bye week. But I was all in on it.
Tell you what, the one thing, Rusty, this weekend that kind of pushed me to that point is I watched a team that Georgia scored every single time it touched the ball against, get stops on the road, stop after stop, quite a few of them, against John Mateer and Ben Arbuckle, 2 of the biggest, hottest commodities coming into this season. Everybody wanted those 2.
Everybody wanted John Mateer for sure, and I think Arbuckle was one of those names that came up. But listen, for everything with Mateer, we're learning with him. You know what I mean? Like I think Trinidad Chambliss answered some questions yesterday at Oklahoma. He played really good against Georgia, but then I felt like he kind of caved in that fourth quarter, and you could see the inexperience, and Georgia finally got to him. Yesterday, Oklahoma didn't get to him. He was, the moment was not too big. And, I know Mateer is coming back from all that, but, people jumped on him like he was the next thing. I'm not, he still got some questions to answer too, for me, and not saying he's not a Heisman Trophy winner, but there's still some questions on him, and we'll see as the year goes on. He'll have a lot more who have a lot more sample size.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's hear from another one of our partners here, Rusty Modelo. Some things in life are just made for each other, man. It's Modelo season. Peanut butter and jelly, macaroni and cheese, and Modelo in college football. If you're listening to this, if you're watching this, it means you live and breathe football all season long. You live and breathe Georgia football. You know what that makes you, a full-time fan, which means you deserve a Modelo, because football wouldn't be the same without you. So Modelo is the official beer sponsor of the college football playoff, and you need to go check it out. Had a little six-pack of Modelo. I'm not normally a big drinker, especially not a big beer drinker. I grabbed me a six-pack the other day, brought it home, of course, of a couple weeks. One here, one there. So refreshing, awesome beer. How about them dogs? How about Modelo? Go check them out, the official sponsor of the college football playoff. And I'm telling you, if you cover a college football playoff game, you will see it everywhere. You see it all over the place. It is, you cannot miss it. If you go to a college football game, if you cover one in the playoff, you'll see Modelo everywhere, and there's a reason for that. Rusty, I wanted to ask you here real quick to kick off Georgia-Florida week. Georgia's a 7.5-point favorite right now, which is 2 points down from the start of the season when they were a 9.5-point favorite. I think that interim head coach deal probably has a little bit to do with that. If Billy Napier was still the head coach at Florida, I think we'd probably be looking at 10.5, maybe 11.5. But, as I pointed out, and I believe this with everything I've got, every individual in the Florida building feels like their job's on the line. They're coaching and playing for it. What's your best Georgia-Florida memories? What would pull from the bank? What are some of your best ones?
Probably 1997 when Georgia beat. I was there. Georgia was a 20-point underdog. Hadn't beat Florida in forever. Spurrier was running through them like nobody's business.
Like something through a tin horn.
Yes. And you go down there, and little things happen early. And Bobo had a hell of a game. Kirby Smart had an interception at the end of the game. Robert Edwards goes off. Champ Bailey gets a pick early in the game on Doug Johnson. Hines Ward makes a play.
Yeah, so, you'd have to think real hard about what quarterback you picked off in that game, because they played three of them. It was Doug Johnson, Jesse Palmer, and Noah Brandeis.
Yeah, he was running them all through there. It was just one of those games, man, where it was that day. It was magical for Georgia fans. I remember going to the landing after the game. It's interesting. The players after the game, and I knew several of them, I saw them after the game, and they're like, man, we got to get on a plane. I was like, well, don't worry, boys, because I'm going to have one for you. So we're all going to the landing. So we go to the landing. It's a group of us. We go to the landing, and, of course, it's all Georgia fans, just crazy. And there's this right there at the water, there's this big yacht kind of thing, this big Georgia booster. I have no idea. He had I tell you how much money he had. He had Harry Dog on his yacht after the game. I'm talking about the full uniform guy. Well, the guy changes out of it, and he's going to wind up enjoying the rest of the evening. I'd had a few, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to put this Harry Dog hat on. It's on tonight. I reached down and picked that thing up, Jake, and when I got it to about right here and smelled the sweat on that thing, I took that Harry Dog head and I put it right back down where it was, and I said, good enough, man. But that was pretty wild, that game. Being a 20-point underdog to win that game, and the way that series had went, I mean, they were slicing and dicing in Georgia. But Alandis Gary breaks that one at the end. He breaks all those tackles and dives.
He broke several tackles, yeah.
So that was a big one, man. That kind of, that was a big win for that team that wound up going 10-2.
Yeah, I watched that one on TV. I watched the 2000. I think the next one they got was 2004. I watched that 2004 game. They had just fired Ron Zook, and he stayed. I think he stayed on to coach that game. And Georgia kind of had to hang on there. Needed a big catch late from Fred Gibson, David Green to Fred Gibson to win that game. They ended up losing to Auburn later on and missing the SEC championship game. And that 2004 season was a little bit of a disappointment. But I was actually at that one. The first game I covered since kind of moving into this industry was 2011. I didn't cover it. I was there as a fan, and I got a chance to go. It was that 2011 game. It was the Jarvis Jones game, the Richard Samuel game.
I was there.
That weekend, Rusty, it happened after I got out of college, and I was in my late 20s at the time. Let's see, I would have been 28 years old at the time. And it was a total college game. We had some buddies that went up there, and they just popped in the W to see if they had one of those. It was the W. It was one of those hotels right there on the river, right there.
Yeah.
And they just popped in to see if they had a room. And they said, yeah, we've got the suite. We got like the president's suite or something, one of these big 3-room suites. And they were like, yeah, we're not going to be able to afford that. And he goes, well, man, listen, it's 5:30 on a Friday. We're not going to sell it for this weekend. What will you guys pay for it? And we had, phone calls started happening, and we ended up all splitting it for about $500 a night for 2 nights. Well, there ended up being about 14 of us. And so we did the whole, like, people sleeping on the floor, sleeping on the couch, all that stuff. I had just torn my quad tendon. I was there in a wheelchair. It was something else. But then you go to the game, and Florida jumps out early. Georgia gets a couple touchdowns. Richard Samuel puts the game on ice with his, kind of his signature game as a Bulldog. Either that one or the Arkansas game where he had that 80-yard touchdown run. But I don't know, that one. Obviously, that team ended up going and playing for an SEC championship game, but nothing more than that. And that one will always stick with me because, good time with good friends. And it was really the last game I can ever remember going to as a fan. Like that last time I ever got a chance to attend a Georgia game and just kind of enjoy it. I was covering recruiting at the time, but, nobody knew who I was. And I was brand new. I'd been on the job 2 months. And so it wasn't a big deal. But that one will always stick with me as a fun game. I think Jarvis Jones had like 3.5 or 4 sacks.
Is that when Malcolm Mitchell broke that tackle and scored
that
late?
Was 12. That was the next year. That was the first time I ever covered a Georgia-Florida game, and that was a lot of fun too. I mean, that was a good time, just kind of the way that game shook out. And that was the Sean Williams challenged the team before the game.
That's when Jarvis stripped him at the quarterback at the end.
He stripped Jordan Reed, the tight end.
Yes.
Yeah, they caught it.
Yes.
Yeah, stripped him, and it went in the back of the end zone. Sanders Cummings fell on it. I think Georgia turned Florida over 6 times that day. Jeff Driscoll was the quarterback. Yeah, that was a wild game, and nobody really gave Georgia that Florida was number 2 in the country going into that game. And they Will Muschamp team, they were leaning on defense and special teams and kind of taking care of the ball. And Georgia won the war of attrition there. Georgia hit the big plays offensively and got enough turnovers to kind of win that game. And, little Georgia-Florida memory down memory lane. A couple of Florida killers there, too, with Robert Edwards. The funny thing about that 97 game, I don't know if you knew this, Steve Spurrier was going for his 100th win in that game. And, thanks to Robert Edwards and company, he didn't get it against Georgia. So that was that'll always be something Georgia can kind of hang his hat on, even though they did let Tim Tebow break Herschel Walker's rushing record for rushing touchdowns against them several years later. All right, guys, let's hear from Sunheist here real quick. Sunheist has been a partner of DawgsHQ for a long time, and we certainly appreciate them. Save 20% with code DawgsHQ20 when you go to sunheist.com and you pick up these amazing sunglasses. They're premium. It's premium eyewear, and it won't break the bank. You go there and spend under $100, especially with this $20 discount you get. And the frames, lifetime warranty. And it comes with an awesome package. You get the sunglass necklace, you get a case, you get a cleaner, you get all of that stuff. Rusty, you've worn these things. What do you think about it?
I wore them last night. I'm telling you right now.
Are you pulling the Corey Hart on us? You wearing the sunglasses?
I wore them yesterday. I wore them yesterday driving to Atlanta and going to there. And I'm telling you, I was sitting there yesterday going, I wish I had known about them earlier. I promise you, if you're on the fence and just want to say, hey, I'm going to try it, I promise you right now that these are Rusty approved. This isn't sponsorship. They gave me 2 glasses and 2 pair of glasses, and we're good. But I'm telling you right now, both pair of Sunhouse I've got, I love them. I love them, and fit. They're lightweight, easy to clean. Just it's easy, man. You can get it with 20% off that code right there. This is Georgia People. It's an easy click and sale. I promise you that.
No doubt. Also, My Perfect Franchise. Our man Andy Ludick, My Perfect Franchise can help you discover your American dream. whether you're a displaced corporate executive or you're just kind of worn out doing what you want to do, or maybe you just want to do something different, add to your portfolio, take your life and your career into your own hands and start a franchise, go to myperfectfranchise.net, check with our buddy Andy Ludicky, and he can help you get on your way to experiencing something new, to experiencing something of your own. Andy's is a veteran franchise owner. He's been in this industry for a long time, and the best part about this is there's no cost to you. He'll hook you up with the right stuff. His conversation comes from the other direction, from the franchises themselves. So check out Andy Ludicky over at myperfectfranchise.net. He'll hook you up. All right, Rusty, let's close this thing up with a little Dogs versus Gators talk. Some early thoughts on this game. We've talked about the memories. We've talked about the betting line. We've talked about a lot of different things. But what are some of your early thoughts on what I believe to be a pretty dangerous Florida team for Georgia at this point in the year?
Yeah, and also you worry about the unknown. Obviously, Kirby made the comment that you can't change a ton of things, during a bye week too much, and that's right. But you can put in enough to give you some issues. And I was thinking today with Russ Callaway, now the offensive coordinator. He's someone that's very close to Kirby Smart and Mike Bobo and that family, and he's known those guys for years. To me, I wonder what tape they go back and watch. Like, what offenses has he been involved in? What's his offensive background? Where are those things? So. Defensively, they've got some guys, man. They've got a damn good defense. To me, early on, not to dig too much, and I know this is obvious, but a fast start would be huge right here, because if you get up on a team 14-0, I mean, here's a team that they got a new, interim coach, no telling what they've tried to put in. But if you get a team that's carefree and all these things, and next thing you know, you're in a 17-14, third quarter game, and hell, anything can happen. You saw that. You see it every week in the SEC. Every single week you see it. So it was yesterday. I could see in his eyes. Saban was talking about Alabama on game day. He said, "Man, if I'm playing South Carolina, I'm worried as hell." He goes, "Because they got enough pieces. If they put it together, they are a dangerous football team." And that's exactly the same way I feel about Florida. When you look at the Georgia-Florida series, there's already wild things have happened down there both ways. But you get a team, man, that's carefree. They're going to play loose. And these coaches are, they're coaching for their jobs, but they're playing with house money. You know what I mean? Their head coach has been fired. So it makes me a little bit nervous going into this. They got a really good roster. If Georgia goes down there and handles business and has a really good, I would say, a fast start, they can take care of business pretty quickly. If not, man, this could be one of those 4-quarter wars again.
Yeah, and on one hand, I've had some thoughts about this too. On one hand, you think about it and you're like, the longer they stay in it, the more belief they've got, the more dangerous they become. But then at the same time, you also think about kind of what Georgia's done and who Georgia is. And they're just an incredibly tough team to play for the final 30, 20, 10 minutes of a game too. So it's almost like this could be fire against fire. This could be kind of one of those survive and advance type games. And, Florida's really struggled offensively. They haven't been great. They're not very good up front. DJ Lagway, there's two ways this thing can go, right? Florida's not going to be the same team they were before they fired Billy Napier. They're going to be significantly better, or they're going to be worse. I don't think they're just going to pick up where they left off and be the exact same team. Either they're going to try to do too much new and kind of get themselves in a little bit of a hole, or try to be too different and get themselves in a little bit of a hole and struggle, or they're going to make some much needed changes and be significantly better. And that's kind of where I fall on this game. And I agree with you. If you could jump out, if you could find a way to kind of put your foot on the gas right to start with at the right time, jump all over them, you feel real good about it. Like, you feel really good about it. But, looking at the matchups, I like Georgia on both lines of scrimmage, especially with the offensive line getting healthy. Florida's got a pretty good defense. Their front seven's a pretty good group. They've got some talented athletes at receiver, but not necessarily the polished technicians that Georgia's faced thus far. It's just tough to know because you really don't know who Florida is. You don't know what this version of Florida is, and that's where it all kind of boils down to. But make no mistake about it, I'm not trying to play Florida up as this juggernaut. But there were some high expectations in the preseason for Florida, some pretty strong ones, because they've got a good team and they've got some pieces like you mentioned, and you just hope those pieces stay cloaked in secrecy for one more week. If you're a Georgia fan,
yeah, see as the week goes on, but I feel like Georgia can handle business here. You want to see Georgia play a clean game, man. I mean that is you're begging for one. You know what I mean? Like get out on one and win this game like 31-14 or something. Like handle business and be like, we were the better team all day long. Our team came out. We survived a 10-10 first quarter, and then they went on about their business. But Georgia's a better team here. They need to handle business this weekend in Jacksonville.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And, we'll have more for you as the week goes along. We'll talk about it over at DawgsHQ. We'll have some predictions, and we'll have another show on Thursday. We'll have Dog Talk Live with Rusty Mansell on here on Tuesday night. We'll have a DawgsHQ Plus this week. Hope we maybe take a little look ahead to Florida, talk a little recruiting. Listen, if you're not signed up for DawgsHQ Plus, go check us out. If you're not a member of the site and you want to kind of see what we talk about on the site and inside and out, the X's and O's and all of the stuff that kind of jumps behind that paywall over at DawgsHQ, $3.99 a month, DawgsHQ Plus, one show per week, and we get into it. We dig deep. We drill straight down. And we'd love to have you. We'd love to talk to you there. We'd love to have you over at the website 1 week for $1. Plus, you get a complimentary year's worth of access to The Athletic in the process. But for this episode of the Georgia Show, that's all we got. Y'all take it easy. We'll chat with you next time.